Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, in this pronunciation, I would like to talk about some points, related to language. The first is what is the nature of language, okay, and then why are languages prone to ambiguity, and then what is the connection between language and mind, and the connection between language and culture. And the last one, can humans live without language? Okay, let's start from the first thing about the nature of language. So, according to Mackay and Francis, 1966, language instruction, is one of the most challenging fields in education. And by evaluating the findings, one may determine the optimal teaching approach. So, based on Mackay and Francis, 1966, one of the most challenging fields in education is language. Why? Because language is not only about the knowledge. Yeah. So it's not enough. Yeah? It's not adequate when someone was that studied, yeah, the the grammar, and then the vocabulary, and then the intonation, yeah, without what we call practice, yeah, or habit. So in language instruction, we have to combine, we have to integrate, yeah, between the knowledge, yeah, the knowledge of the language, and it means that we have also studied, we have to study the grammar, and then the vocabulary, and then also the what is that what we call the pronunciation, and so on and so forth. But also we should teach the students to practice. If not, right, if the students are only required to study the grammar, and then the vocabulary without any practice, it will be what we call it fail. Yeah, it will be what we call it yeah, it will result in failure. Okay, and it will work when the teacher can integrate between the knowledge and also the practice. Yeah, so we have to combine, and we have to be balanced between practice and also what we call it knowledge. Yeah, practice and also knowledge. That's the point. And then, why are languages prone to ambiguity? Yeah, based on Stegberg, yeah, points out that we are pattern bound in languages as we are culture bound in modes. So actually, um, language is not cannot be separated from what we call culture. Yeah, because language is actually the result, yeah, the product of culture. So the simplest definition of ambiguity, yeah, is that an expression is ambiguous if the expression has more than one meaning. It's based on Gillian, 1990. Ambiguity doesn't only concern meaning, but rather the interpretation that can be made by the reader or listener. So ambiguity can be uh, made by both the speaker or listener. Yeah, it comes two sides, right? So it can be the reader, or sorry, it can be the speaker that produce ambiguous sentence, or what we call it, clause, but it can be also the listener that fail, yeah, who fail to understand the utterance, something like that, yeah. So in lexical ambiguity, the double meaning derives from the meanings of the words themselves, based on Stegberg, 1958. And it means that numerous meanings of certain words can lead to ambiguity. Okay, so one word can be can be interpreted, yeah, can be interpreted more than one meaning. In the case of the lexical ambiguity, we can further distinguish two types, homonymy and polysemy. It's based on Durda et al. 2010. So if we take homonymous words into account, we have multiple unrelated meanings. For instance, take the word bank, for example. Yeah, the word bank can refer to financial institution or to the edge of a river. Yeah, it can be ambiguous when there is no context. Yeah, in that word. Okay, and then how about the connection between language and mind actually, right? So language may be defined as a system of symbols with commonly recognized meanings which makes easier our thought process and helps us to communicate with each other, right? So here the keywords is the symbols with commonly yeah, system of symbols. Okay, and which makes us easier to process and communicate. And then how how does language connect to mind? So language is actually the result of our thought. Yeah. So when we have already mastered this system of symbols, whenever we have thought in our mind, and then we can elicit, we can produce the language. Okay, so um, actually, what we call it, uh, the proposition comes from mind first, from our mind, okay, what we are thinking about, yeah, and then um, after we already create, yeah, create the proposition, and then the our mind will call our um, speech organ to produce the language. Okay, that's one of the what's that the definition, what's that, the explanation of the process. Okay, and then let's go on to the connection between language and culture. So the relationship between language and culture is actually complex, ladies and gentlemen. So the two are actually interchangeable or intertwined. A particular language usually points out a specific group of people. Yeah, when you interact with another language, it means that you are also interacting with the culture that speaks the language. So you cannot understand one's culture without accessing its language directly. Okay, so it's interchangeable. For example, when you are interacting with what's that, Dayak tribes, for example, yeah, um, we if we want to interact with the culture, we um, directly interact with their language because what do we call it? The process of transferring the knowledge of the culture and then how to approach the tribes. Yeah, we are going to use the language, and the language should be understandable, should be understood by both the speaker and also listener. So willingly we have to also access the language. Okay, and then the last point, it's about, can human live without language? Okay, the answer is they they can't. Why? Because actually human, yeah, human is created as a social creature. Yeah, social creature. It means that human will interact with others, right? So in this interaction, one of the means, yeah, is the language. Even in the very first time in the civilization of human, um, even they haven't produced what we call it language, and then they produce like sign language first, right? So it belongs to language actually, yeah. Although it is still a sign language. So actually, human cannot live without language. Even uh, for people who cannot speak, yeah, because of the what's that, the condition of this his health or something, yeah, they will still need communication with language, even they can use the sign language. Okay, I think that's what I can talk about. Hopefully it's useful. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.